Right, everyone, let's get started. Welcome to Home Office Hours Live with Vistaprint. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you haven't joined us before, Home Office Hours is a series of live discussions on timely topics, and we'll be featuring guest speakers and our very own Vistaprint team members. Our goal with the series is to provide you with education and advice for surviving these unprecedented times during the COVID-19 crisis. We know that small business needs have changed, and we wanted to help. So we created the series as a way to connect during this time when we're all spending a lot of time inside and we're all dealing with various challenges while we're working from home. So we have tapped colleagues to help answer some of the questions that you are all having as business owners. And today we have with us our very own Ellen Greer, a digital product manager here at Vistaprint who focuses on our website builder. Ellen, can you say hello to the audience?
Hey everyone.
Hey, Ellen, thank you. We also have Scott Trafton, owner of Trafton Web Design and CEO and co-founder of Poolshark H2O. Scott, can you give a wave to the audience?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Scott. And we also have Ryan McMorrow with us, Senior Analytical Lead from Google. Ryan, can you say hello?
Hi, everybody. Great to be here.
Hey, thank you all for being with us. So today we are going to talk about website best practices and particularly right now during COVID-19. And before we get started, I wanted to share a few housekeeping items. We will take questions at the end of the session, but please feel free to submit questions throughout the session. You can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to do that. And we'll also be sending the recording out after we wrap up. And for those of us on Facebook Live, your questions will be submitted as well via the Q&A in Zoom. So let's get started. We have touched on ideas and tips for content and websites in some of our previous webinars, but I think this question bears repeating. Ellen, can you summarize for us just why you as a small business want and need a website in 2020?
Sure, absolutely. Corey, thanks again for having me here today. The value of having a website for a small business owner is three things. It's connecting with your customer, providing concrete information about your business, and really showing off your brand and who you are. I would say those are the cores for having a website.
Absolutely. And we know that a lot of small businesses are thinking, especially right now, about the importance of their digital presence. But we also know that many actually still don't have a website. 56% actually is what we saw in a recent Vistaprint study. So we know it's intimidating to get started. Scott, I know that you have a lot of experiences in helping businesses create and build up those first websites. And based on those experiences, can you tell us what that process is like and maybe ease people's minds about getting into the whole project of building a site?
Sure. Yeah, I've built several for local businesses in my area, and websites are necessary more than ever now with everybody at home, ones that'll work on your computer, but also on your phone. So, whether you have a business that's been around for a long time or you're just starting out, you definitely want to be found online. So the first thing I do when I talk with new clients is to have them, take a sheet of paper and write down something about your business. Because whether or not you're building a website on your own or you're having someone else help you build it, you're the only one that knows what your business does. So we can make it look pretty, but it's up to you to provide the content on there. And if you have a store or something, it can be overwhelming because you may have been around for a long time, or you may have hundreds or thousands of products that are in your store, but you don't need those all on your website day one. You can start out with a simple page as your contact information and recent information on there, and then grow over time have your website grow over time to possibly add an online store later on. So, in that regard, when you're building or thinking about building a website, you want to think about what you want to show up tomorrow when you get that launched, but you also want to think about the future of where you want your website to grow, whether or not you want the online store or want streaming and things like that on there.
Yeah, if I can jump in real fast. So I work in product here at Vistaprint, actually on the Vistaprint website builder. Our builder, works very similarly to a lot of other builders in that it's, a drag and drop tool to help you design and create a website and get it online, even if you're not a developer hands-on. So I'll just mention that we do have that, and a lot of small businesses use it to do exactly what Scott was saying. Start small, communicate what's most important about their business, and then expand out from there. I'll say, biased as I am towards websites, that a lot of businesses really thrive on being on a Facebook business page and not a website, or being on Instagram, or maybe they're just listed on online directories like Yelp or Google My Business. And so really I would say that like having a website is awesome, but what's most important is being where your customers are. So whether that's on a website, whether that's a directory, whether that's social media, if you can be where they are, connect with them, that's what's really going to drive your business.
Awesome. Thank you. I totally agree. I think it's a huge point, whether we're talking about websites or not, for a small business to focus in on being where your customers are. Ryan, do you have anything to add to this from what you're seeing over at Google?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, Corey, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me, and thanks for tuning in, everybody. So, just a little bit of background on my side. So, at Google, I serve as Google's analytical B2B consultant, and part of that is looking at the data and understanding how consumers are navigating B2B websites right now, and also how they're searching. So I've been working with lots of companies, large and small, through these uncertain times that we're living in right now, that are just trying to adapt and thrive. And really what I'm seeing at Google from a search trend perspective, and really like a query perspective, is obviously some categories are down. There's just less demand for some categories out there. For some, we're seeing sharp increases. And then for others, we're really just basically seeing a shift. So if you think about like a real world scenario here, so Google searches for like gyms, for example, are down like 40% month over month. But queries like workout at home, or like any sort of like virtual fitness, those are up like 5x compared to February. And other home activity keywords are also seeing a spike. So things like crafts at home, things like games at home, recipes are 2x where they were last month. So it's really about how an audience is adapting to the times, and how you can adapt as well as a business trying to navigate.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think none of those searches are probably terribly surprising to us right now, but I think it goes a long way towards showing that it's really worth it right now to get that online presence up if you don't have it yet. Assuming that you have been able to get an online presence up, Ryan, maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you can help people find you online.
Sure. So I get this question a lot. I think for a small business, the first thing that I would do is make sure that that you have a presence on Google My Business. So that's google.com/business. If you haven't filled that out and you don't have that built out yet, now's a great time to get that started. It may take a little bit longer because most people at Google are working remotely. So the whole process might take a little while, but definitely something that you should get started with. If you already have a Google My Business account, then that means that your business is already showing up when people are searching for you over on the right-hand side. But what we're finding here is that not every small business is proactive about updating their information based on the current scenario. So when we think about your hours, maybe your hours have changed. Maybe you're only doing delivery if you're a restaurant, and you're no longer doing dine-in. Maybe just in general, your offering has changed. Make sure that you are focusing on having that data be as updated as possible and reflective of the current environment. It's going to make things a little bit more clear from the user side, and certainly less frustrating.
Absolutely. And I know it can take a little bit of a time investment to keep everything up to date there across all those listings. Ellen, I know that you have some tips. Maybe you can share those with us?
Sure. This is a shameless plug for another service we offer here at Vistaprint, which is called Search Engine Listings Manager. What's great about it is that you update your contact information, your business hours, that kind of thing in one place in Search Engine Listings Manager, and those updates systematically get published out to a bunch of different online directories, including Google My Business. So shameless plug, it's super effective. It's one of the services we do offer.
Awesome. Thank you both. I think making sure those listings are up to date definitely seems like a relatively easy way to get found and to get customers to contact you. So once a business is online and they've got some people finding them, how should someone set up their website to best engage their customers and people who are finding their business online? Scott, can you start us off here with some baseline standards that you would recommend?
Sure. Yeah. So once you have somebody on your website, you want to give them a reason to come back. So providing current relevant information or on there. So depending on your business, you may write a blog post, once a week or once a month that's has information that people are really looking for. You can also have newsletters sign ups. So if you're a toy store or something, you could get people's email addresses by the newsletter and then send them out, flyers for, early specials that they can get before they're released to everybody else, or new products that are coming out, or things like that to keep people engaged and to keep them bringing them back to your website is really key.
Yes, definitely agree. I think it's important not to forget those things that keep people coming back even when there isn't a pandemic going on. And I think people will still expect to hear from you in those regular ways that have kept them engaged before. Ellen, I think that you had a few tips for us on the presentation of the site itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So the number one thing is the way that your business has responded to COVID-19 and these times of quarantine. Something is really different about your business.
Chris, could you switch to the next slide, please? Sorry to interrupt you, Ellen. I just
Oh,
want
no
to show the
problem.
example of what you're talking about.
Perfect. Yeah. So I really wanted to recommend whatever's new about your business in these unusual times, show that front and center and above the fold. So this is the very top of the homepage of a website template. It's just one of the ones that we offer here at Vistaprint in our website builder. And what I thought was great about this is you can see, before you have to scroll down the page anywhere, like top, front, center, join us for an online class today. There's a button right below the business name saying join our virtual fitness classes. So really centering and showing, immediately when someone lands on your website, this is what's working. This is what's new in these new times. That's one of the things I recommend. So beyond centering and really prioritizing that most important piece of information, what we might call the call to action. Beyond that, there's a couple other things that businesses can do to really keep their website up to date and really responsive in this moment. So bringing in video content to your website, updating your contact info, of course, with your new hours. If your brick and mortar location is closed and you're doing virtual, it'd be great to list that there too. Pulling your social media activity onto your site, and providing downloadable documents for your customers. So for example, I know of companies that have contracts, and normally someone will sign that contract, or they'll fill out an intake form, on a paper copy in their brick and mortar location. That's not really happening that much anymore. And so if you have a downloadable PDF right on your website, that makes it easy for one of your customers to download it on their own computer, print it, sign it, scan it, or send you a photo, or mail it to you, that kind of thing. So yeah, I would say, put your most important call to action, the newest thing you're doing with the new times, front and center, bringing in video, making sure all of your contact information and location info is current, social media activity, and those downloadable documents. And then finally, I would just link to everything everywhere. Make it really easy for your customers to find, any of multiple paths to the most important information that you want them to have.
Perfect, thank you. I think what that really all boils down to is, even though we all most likely have a little bit more extra time on our hands today, we still don't want to take a lot of time looking around on a website. We want that information kind of right up front and center and in our face. So definitely make it easy for your customers. So Ryan, I know that you particularly have a lot of knowledge on user experience in uncertain times. Can you give us some tips that are more specific to what's going on right now and how you can adapt your website for uncertain times?
Absolutely, yeah. So Google has actually put together kind of a quick hit list of things to consider as you're thinking about updating your website and working through your brand's response during
Right.
essentially the times that we're in, right? So,
I think that's our next slide,
yeah,
actually.
we want to go to the next slide. So the screenshots here are going to be all mobile focused, and I think they may be a little hard to read, so I'll walk through each one of them here. But just like these principles also apply to desktop, also apply to tablet. So whatever screen size you're really catering to, I think that these are all applicable. And I'm going to sound like a little bit of a broken record here, but really the core out of all of these best practices is clarity and making sure that your customers know what to expect from you. So when we're thinking about a website's user experience, what we're finding across most of the web right now is that many businesses have some sort of banner at the top of the page, and that's from a Google's perspective, that's what we consider to be best practice. We want to make sure that those notification bars, those are visible, that they're at the top. Like Ellen said, make sure that your response is kind of top, like front and center, and that it stands out. And that's similar to one of the items below where it says use distinct and consistent colors. So make sure that your banner at the top of the page, if you are going to include a banner, is separate and distinct from the rest of the site so that people's eyes go to it first and they understand what to expect from you and what your response is given these times. And then the rest of the content kind of flows underneath. In addition to that, what we're finding being best practice across every industry is that if at all possible, there should be a dedicated page to either some resources or your brand's messaging on how you're responding specifically during these times. And what we're finding to be best practice is if there's a call to action within that notification bar to link to those resources, that just is the cherry on top of what really drives a positive user experience on your website, just to make sure that, again, that they really understand what's going on, what to expect. That leads me to the rest of the slide here, which is all around messaging. So really the core of what Google is saying right now is, number one, make sure that you're addressing the needs of your users and your customers. So put yourself in the shoes of your customer and what are their expectations, and are those expectations correct or not? And how can you clarify what changes are being made and how you're responding as such. So I think another piece of that is just being transparent. If you're open, say that you're open. If you're not open, say that you're not open. If it's somewhere in between, be upfront about that. Don't try and use a whole lot of business jargon or anything. Just be transparent, be open, be honest, and really just meet your customer where they are. And then last but not least, from a web user experience perspective, it's all about getting back to basics. So if you think about your website, make sure that your value proposition, the core thing that you deliver that's different than everyone else, make sure that that's at the top of the page, right underneath your notification bar, if you're going to have that. And then make sure you have a strong call to action that is very visible above the fold. And then try and keep your website as solely focused on the main goal of getting that customer further down the funnel to whatever that funnel looks like for you right now. Make sure that that is the key component of your homepage.
Well, thank you guys so much. I think this is all really helpful. I think on the topic of making sure that you're communicating that you're still open for business, but also how things have changed, I think we've seen a lot of businesses be really agile in shifting gears, and they're providing their services in creative ways. So there's something on their site that's saying, we're now doing online classes or virtual services, and they're streaming this content. Ellen, can you tell us a little bit about how someone can actually set up these virtual classes and services?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of my favorite topics because there are so many solutions out there for small businesses. So, for example, one of the developers on one of my teams, her son is taking clarinet lessons, and of course, that music lesson used to be in person, and now he's meeting one-on-one with his music instructor via Zoom. I've also heard about WebEx being a really great option for one-on-one, either like lessons, consultations, meetings, things like that. I also really recommend whether it be WebEx or Google Hangouts for small group meetings. And I've heard great things about dance classes or exercise classes happening on Facebook Live, and instructors like requesting tips during the course of the class, but people really being able to follow along with this live streamed experience. There's this really great restaurant in Connecticut, and they have a really popular YouTube channel in which they're like head chef, this guy who goes by Daddy Jack. The channel's called Daddy Jack's Cooking the Blues. He like shows you like recipes, like how to make chicken marsala in his restaurant kitchen. Well, the restaurant had to close due to the quarantine. And so something that they switched over to doing was offering those recipe videos on patreon.com for subscribers. So they're keeping some revenue coming in the door by making that, premium recipe content available on demand for people who are paying a monthly subscription to support that business, even though they can't be open and serve you chicken marsala in person. So definitely recommend WebEx, Google Hangouts, Facebook Live, even YouTube Live. Patreon. I think some of y'all might be watching on Facebook Live right now. And so I hope it's not too terribly difficult for you to set up a similar kind of class too. Another thing this brings to mind for me is, so my sister works at a puzzle and board game store here in DC. And one of the things that they're doing is, of course, they have a brick and mortar. They, used to sell products in person. For a short period, they were doing delivery. And now with the stay-at-home orders in DC, something they're doing is offering online Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. And my sister is like a Dungeons and Dragons dungeon master. And so they started out basically emailing back and forth with people to figure out when's a good time, how many people are in your party, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the call-in info. And something that they've started to explore more recently, per my, big sister recommendation, was an online appointment book. So what's great about this is that so my sister teaches these after school programs for elementary school age kids, and they've switched those classes to being online. So parents can reserve a seat for their kids at the same time that they used to have that after school program. And then folks who are interested in setting up that one time, 3-hour Dungeons and Dragons session, they can just request an appointment time, at any moment in the open calendar at a time that works for them. And so what's great about this is it really cut out a lot of the back and forth emailing. So my sister's been checking out at her store, they've been checking out something called setmore.com, which Vistaprint is not affiliated with, but has a really great free service that works really well for small businesses. But there's lots of services out there, whether it's Setmore or You Can Book Me or a public Google Calendar. There's an appointment feature built into Square if you use that for payment processing. There's lots of options out there, and it's actually, not impossible and not super expensive for any small business to start offering online classes, virtual services, and set up that appointment book to make it easy for their customers to schedule any of the above.
That's awesome. Thank you. And those online appointment booking services sound very helpful for right now. Ryan, is there anything that you can add here about the demand that you might be seeing in Google for online services and classes like this?
Yeah, like I was saying before, we're certainly seeing a shift from more traditional brick and mortar type activities to more online equivalents, right? So if we take the example before of gyms are down, but workouts at home are up. So as you're thinking about what your response is as a business and as a brand, consumer behavior is changing to adapt to where we currently are in terms of the situation. But how can you as a business also adapt your offering to reflect the changes in consumer behavior?
Awesome. I think it's been really impressive to see how businesses have adapted and how quickly they've done that. Scott, I want to bring it over to you. With all of these operations moving online, we know that small businesses have a lot of questions about accepting payments. You have some firsthand experience with that as well, right?
Yes, I have some of the, so Ellen had mentioned Square, so that's a common platform for small businesses to use. And I had built a website for one client. They came online and they wanted to start offering products online. And the website was built using WebEx, but it also had WordPress, but it also had a component that allowed Square to connect right into the online store that was built there. And it even, the setup was pretty easy. And it even had the ability to actually keep track of the inventory. So if you sold, a puzzle in your brick and mortar store that they came and picked up, it would actually remove that from the online store. So it would keep track. So it made it easy to keep your inventory up to date. So you knew what you had and you weren't selling things on the online store, which I just walked out the door earlier. Another common one that is pretty easy to integrate and was really built for online stores and things is Stripe. I actually use that for our company, Pool Shark, ourselves, because it's easy to set up. Again, there was a plugin for WordPress, which I've set this up a couple times for, but it also has the ability for developers to interact with a code and essentially do anything you want with the information. So all the credit card processing is taken care of by those companies, so you don't have to worry about the security and things like that. And then Stripe sends information back to our servers to allow us to do some additional processing for things like that to keep our systems all up to date. So both of those are pretty common, and they're pretty easy. If you have an online store, there may actually be code, so you really only have to provide your login and information, and everything else is automatically set up for you.
Yeah, and I'll jump in actually, if that's all right,
Yeah.
and mention that, Scott, it sounds like what you're doing for your customers, I mean, it sounds like it's working really well for them. It's also pretty advanced. I know not everyone with us in the webinar today is probably as skilled a developer, whether it be with WordPress or anything else as you might be. And so something I'll mention for anyone who's not a developer is that it's actually pretty easy to link back and forth between your online payment processing system and your website or your social media or whatever else. So for example, like in our website builder here at Vistaprint, one of the things I totally recommend to small businesses is to either put their Venmo handle like visible right on the page, or to create a button with a link back and forth to something like PayPal. So for example, there's a youth homeless shelter here in DC called Casa Ruby, and they collect donations via PayPal's like nonprofit donation pages. And so something that they're able to do really easily is just hyperlink back and forth between the Casa Ruby website and their like PayPal page. And so that makes it really easy for anyone who wants to, give philanthropically, to the homeless youth to basically just click a button on the website that takes them right over the PayPal, and they can process right there. Some other things I'll mention, whether you use Venmo, Square, Stripe, PayPal, Cash App, whatever it may be, is that every single one of these payment processors has a different fee structure. They might have, a monthly fee and then a transaction fee or some combination thereof. So I really encourage you, as a small business owner, if you're considering one of these, to, do your research and make sure that the fee structure works for you. I definitely recommend that you talk to their customer service, see who gives you the fastest response and is pretty knowledgeable. Of course, it must be really easy for you to link to the place where your customers can pay you online. And then finally, it's really important that they be able to pay from their mobile phones. You know, so many of us, so many folks are working and on the go, but many others are quarantined at home right now. No matter what, folks are looking to transact business and make payments from mobile devices. So I definitely recommend that you implement an online payment processor that's really easy for your customers to pay on their phone.
Awesome. Thank you both. I think that's all really helpful information about taking payments online. Very actionable. So I want to switch gears here a little bit. We've talked about social from other angles in previous webinars, but we know that our customers still have a lot of questions, and we can't leave social out in a conversation about doing business online. So Ellen, can you weigh in on how you can incorporate social media into actually your own website?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a great thing to do is to link back and forth between your website and your social media. In our builder, we do have a way for you to pull the most recent feed of activity from your Facebook page or from your Twitter timeline right onto your website. And then of course, pardon me. Of course, enabling a way for your customers to like link and comment and post about your business, about your products, about your services from their own social media. I mean, all of us know that word of mouth is the absolute best recommendation. And so really enabling that crossover between your website and social media is going to help people find your digital presence no matter where they are, and is going to make it really easy to share back and forth, to learn more, to provide that word of mouth recommendation. I'll also just say that if you don't have a website and you're only on social media, that's also totally okay too. As I said before, and as Scott and Ryan have really echoed, being where your customers are and meeting them where they're at is the most important thing.
Thank you. And Ryan, do you have anything to add there about the inclusion of social and its impact on the user experience?
Yeah, sure. So social is obviously a little bit outside of my sphere here at Google, but from a UX perspective, I have found that smart inclusions of social media can really add value. Specifically, if you're adding content to your social media profile, and that's pretty much like the most up-to-date place where you are pushing updates, it's really smart to include that content as well on your website somewhere, just so users are able to keep up to date wherever you're posting, so that they themselves can make sure that they're kind of in the same flow as your business is.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. I think this has all been really helpful. I think this is a great point to turn it over to the questions from the audience. So I will take a look at these and get started. So the first one here, I think for you, Ryan, if you could take this one. I just created my website. Why can't I find it on Google?
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I suffer from that as well. I just made a few websites in the past couple weeks myself. And I'm like, why can't I get these things to rank? I don't understand. So even us Googlers have issues when we're trying to get something to show up on Google. The best piece of advice that I can give you, and I'm not supposed to give any recommendations specifically, this will get you highly ranked or not, but what I can say is going back to the user perspective, you have a website that has tremendous value right now. Think about where you are currently engaging your customers and where they currently are, other than Googling your name on Google search. Maybe that's your local Chamber of Commerce website. Maybe that's on your social page. Maybe if you have a Google My Business account, there's an option to add a website right there. So even if they are looking for your brand, you can still show up and have an option to go to the website that you just spent all this time building. And I know it's frustrating to wait a little while for Google to pick things up, but in the meantime, I really think that pushing and putting your website out in front of customers where they are in other places is certainly going to help you down the line.
Perfect. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
So our next question here is coming in from Facebook Live, and this is one about wording that you are still open for online business. Ellen, I'm wondering if you might be able to take this one with maybe some suggestions from what you've seen from our businesses here at Vistaprint. So what is the best way to word that you are now doing online business? So 2 options proposed here. Would this work? Open for online business or now open for online business? Which one would sound better? And I'm assuming that this is from the way the question is worded, it sounds like this is a new change, that they are now open for online business.
Yeah, I think either of those sounds great. If one of them, I think both of those sound great. Generally speaking, I think a good rule of thumb is short and sweet. So I think the open for online business is 1 word shorter than now open for online business. So if I had to pick one, I would recommend that. But honestly, I would also suggest, and thank you so much for this question. This is a great one. I would also suggest that you be a little bit more specific about the exact nature of the business that you're offering online. So if you're selling products that can be shipped to home, maybe it's saying shop online now. If you're offering one-on-one consultations with people, via video platform, like WebEx or Google Hangouts or anything like that, I would say now open for online consultations. Number 1, keep it short, but number 2, try and be specific. Your business is unique, and the clear picture you can paint for your customers of what that might be, the better. Speaking of pictures, they do say a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so if you can include some kind of image that gives them the idea of what they might be getting into, that could be really useful. Whether it's a screenshot of, you on a video chat with a customer, showing them something unique, or whether it's, a screenshot of your online store or a particular product that they can now order online for delivery. I would, definitely be short, be specific, and if you can include a picture, it's worth 1,000 words.
That's great. Thank you, Ellen. Very helpful.
I'd actually like to know what Scott thinks, since he works with so many small businesses. Do you agree? Do you have more suggestions?
No, I think that's a great idea. If you're now selling online, short and sweet with, maybe a photo, or, if you're a toy store, or have puzzles for kids of all ages, or something that they see right when they go, the first thing that they see when they come to the page. Because most people only are sticking around on a web page these days for 3 seconds. So you want something that's going to capture their attention and make sure that they scroll down to do that. So if you're now a restaurant that's doing online pickup or curbside pickup, you may want to feature that right on top. So anything that's recent, that's new, that's going to keep people's attention, is good to show right at the top of the screens these days.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll just add to that real quick. What I've seen anecdotally in a bunch of A/B tests that I've run across industries is action-oriented tends to be better than non-action-oriented. So if you're, to Ellen, your point, if we want to be specific about what we want a customer to do, be as action-oriented as possible, like an order online now, or request a consultation or something like that. Obviously test it for your business, but I've found that those tend to work the best.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Those are all really helpful answers. Appreciate it. So our next question here is actually about payment methods. So Scott, maybe you can start us off on this one. If I use an external payment method, do I still need to worry about making my website safe and secure to collect customers' personal information and payments?
That's a really good question. At this point, if you have a website, I suggest making it secure, because I don't know this officially. Ryan may be able to give a better answer, but I've heard through the grapevine that the secure websites work better in some of the search engines, is because they're actually verified as a legit website, and to some degree. And there's really no reason not to have it secured at this point, because there may be information you're sending across on forms. If you're collecting newsletter information for email address and things like that, it makes people feel more comfortable if it's secure, if they're putting in that information in there. The online payment processing engines are usually you're leaving your site for that. So those are all secure to begin with, all that information. And actually, most of the ones that I've seen they won't even work unless your website's secure if you're selling stuff online. So, there are ways to link to, if you have like something, you're selling something on eBay or things like that, they'll give a button that can go over there. But at that point, you're actually over on eBay and you're not on your website anymore. Things that do that. But if you have an online store yourself that you're running right on your website, then it's taking the payments like that. I think most of them require you to have a secure website in order for that to work. So
yeah, and
they're kind of pushing the point for you.
Yeah, if I can jump in quickly, I think this is really important. I want to very strongly recommend that small business owners never collect payment information via email, never collect it via contact form on your website. When you collect like sensitive financial information, like someone's credit card number or banking information, in a not bank secure level way like that, you're making yourself a really easy target. And it's really risky. It's dangerous to you. It's dangerous to your customers. So never, ever, ever collect payment information via email, via contact forms on your website. That's what's so great about external payment processors, is that they handle that security, so you're not putting yourself or your customer at risk.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that's something people are really sensitive to right now as well. So definitely top of mind, I would say. So our next question here, Ryan, maybe you can answer this one again. This is about Google My Business. I have a website listed on Google My Business, but I need to change to a different website. Will I need to get re-verified by Google if I make that change?
I would have to confirm on that one. I don't believe you have to. I think the only confirmation process that we require is the actual address, like the physical address of your business. I think we have to send a postcard to you, and you have to write in a code or something. But once you've done that postcard piece, you have access to the profile, and you should be able to add and edit the website listing there. And if you can't, we do have help and chat and things like that you can reach out to request assistance when you need it.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. So I think you actually all probably have some very good answers to the next question. But Ellen, I'm going to start with you just so you're not all talking over each other. How should I promote my website once I have one?
Ooh, that's a great question. So there's a couple things you can do. Of course, getting it submitted so that it can be, findable on search. That's something you can do. I definitely recommend connecting with your most loyal customers, with the people that care about your business and have gotten value out of the products or services you provide, whether that's making an announcement via email or via social media, or if you have regular consultations with some of your clients, mentioning as part of the agenda next time you see them. Really, the more you can do to spread that word of mouth, the better. But most of all, it's worth telling people about your website when your website helps them accomplish their goals. Thinking about it from the customer perspective, what is the point of this person having a website? It's so, updates to their hours are centralized in one place, or so, the link to join the online class is available in one place. And so make sure that you're sharing the information with them, but also making it clear, what's in it for them, like what value are they going to get out of the fact that you now have a website.
Of course, we're all interested in what's in it for us. Scott, anything to add to that from your perspective, both as a small business owner yourself and the clients that you've worked with?
Sure. So, if you are, or any content that you do, if you have a blog out there, you want to make sure that you make that easily shareable by, putting Facebook or Twitter buttons on the bottom of them oftentimes, so it can share it that way. And just to kind of mirror what Ellen said, you want, if you are providing something that people are interested in, if you're a restaurant and you're going to give away once a week we'll put up one of our recipes on here to share it, and make that easily shareable too. and let your clients know that what you're doing, and that hopefully will go out to all their friends and get out that way, to get the word out that way. But just to make things easily shareable and providing content that it's relevant, that people really want to share, is probably the fastest way to get things out, especially now when we're all at home, or most of us are at home.
Thank you. Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, sure. So I always, when I get asked this question, I always go back to find where a user is telling you what their intention is, and make sure that you're in front of them. So intentionality is something that's really hard to get sometimes. But of course, I'm here at Google, and I wouldn't be talking about query trends and what people are searching into Google if that wasn't, to me, one of the biggest ways and strongest indicators that somebody is actually interested in your brand or your product or something that you provide, right? So this is where paid search comes into play. This is where those ads at the top of the Google search, there's a reason why Google is as successful as it is. It's because those ads really work, and they are able to put your brand in a place where somebody's user need is so acute that you can directly answer exactly what their pain point is, right? So in addition to the socials, and in addition to making sure that your people can find you where they want to find you, making sure that even when they haven't heard of you and they know they have a general pain point, that wherever they're going to find answers to that you are there and you are front and center is the most important piece.
Perfect. Thank all three of you. Very helpful. So our next question here, Scott, I know you have a perspective on this, so I will ask you this one. We talked about it being important, of course, to have a mobile-friendly website, but how important is it to have a mobile-friendly website? Is this something that's absolutely critical right now?
Yes, it's absolutely critical. Mobile first has been a key phrase that's been very popular in the industry for a while now. But if you think about it, most likely you have a cell phone either sitting on the desk next to you or in your pocket. And if you're out and around, or even walking through your house, and you decide that you're tired of cooking today and you want to order a pizza, most likely you don't have the pizza number. Well, you might, but most likely you don't have the number for your local pizza place memorized. But if you type it in Google, most likely that Google My Business is going to pop that restaurant right up at the top. So all your websites, and anyone I build usually puts the phone number or contact information right at the top thing, so that shows right up on a smartphone, and then you just tap the number and it makes the call. So almost everybody is using a smartphone or a tablet these days, just because they're convenient and they fit in your pocket, and they have. So it's really important to test whatever website you build to make sure that it renders well and looks well, or looks good on the website and is usable, or sorry, on your device and is usable. So yeah, that's a lot of people are only using mobile phones and tablets and don't even have a desktop anymore. So it's pretty critical to make sure it works and works well.
Yes, absolutely. Ellen, did you have anything to add there?
I just agree with Scott 100%. I think in 2020, we're already seeing that the majority of web traffic is coming from mobile devices rather than desktop, and that share is only growing. So more of your customers are going to see your website from their mobile phone first.
Fantastic, thank you. Ryan, is there anything that you would add there from the Google perspective?
Yeah, I would just reiterate, like the present and future is going to be mobile first. We're already seeing many categories and business areas have more queries on mobile than desktop. So to Ellen's point, like many people's first interaction with your brand is going to be your mobile website in whatever shape it's in. So if you're not paying attention to how your brand is coming across from a mobile perspective, you're missing out and really setting not the best, strongest first impression for your business.
Great, thank you. So I just want to call out the time here. We've just got a few minutes left, so we're going to take 1 or 2 more questions. So definitely, if you still have a question, make sure to get it in there in the Q&A box here. So we have one more that I'll toss out to you, Ryan, right now. I think from my perspective, this is really a user experience question. So I've seen a downturn in customers, but other than that, my business hasn't really experienced any issues from the pandemic, and I was already operating online. Do I need to communicate this on my website, or can I leave it as is and assume that people know, unless they see a message otherwise, that it's business as usual?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that I've encountered a couple times. I like to bring up the example. So just this morning, I went on Walmart.com, and Walmart.com has brick and mortar locations that are open right now, and also a very strong online e-commerce presence. And even they have a banner at the top of the page just reiterating what is and isn't possible on the site. Amazon, same thing. They like their experience has changed a little bit. Their prioritization of which items they're shipping has changed, and they're letting users know. They're being proactive about that. So even if it is business as usual, don't assume that your customer knows that or also assumes that. Just be over communicative so that they really understand how your business specifically is responding to the current scenario, just to keep things very, very clear.
Great, thank you. I think that's always good advice. Try not to assume. So we'll take one more question here, and then we're going to close things out. So Ellen, I know that you referenced this earlier. It would be great if you can take this one. I already have a Facebook page, and I'm not currently selling anything online. Should I still create a website?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the answer to it is where your customers, and are you able to communicate with them or provide them access to everything you need from your Facebook page? If yes, then maybe you're fine. If there's more that you know you want to accomplish, more that you know you want to provide or connect your customers to, then maybe it does make sense to start designing a website. I mean, as Scott said earlier, you can always start small. Start with the number 1, 2, or 3 things that you know that you want to provide to your customers, and then later you can always expand out. But yeah, I would say be where your customers are, and also think strategically about, what you're able to offer with your Facebook page. And if there's anything you're not able to offer, can you offer that through a website? But yeah, I think both are really valid.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm going to close this out now for today, but we are going to be hosting these discussions twice a week going forward. You can join us every Tuesday and Thursday at noon Eastern time, and we'll be covering various topics. We really want your help for that, so please be sure to fill out the survey at the end of this and let us know what you would like to hear. And you can also send questions and suggestions to homeofficehours@vistaprint.com, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and we'll be sharing what episodes are coming up. On Thursday, you can tune in for Crisis Communications, and you can find more information in the meantime by visiting Vistaprint.com and checking out the Support Small Business Hub. So I would like to ask each of our panelists before we go for what their number 1 thought is from today's conversation. Scott, can you get us started off?
Sure. Thank you, Ellen, for the lead in, and thank you everyone for having me on today. But yeah, I know websites can be daunting building your first one, but really, you really want to get your presence out there as soon as you can. So, start small, even if it's just a 1 page that has your contact information and, your value proposition, the top things that you're trying to tell everybody that you provide for their service, and then it will naturally grow from there. So.
Awesome, thank you. So start small, keep it simple. Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, so again, thanks for having me, Corey. I really appreciate it. As we close out, I just want to reiterate a few things. So yes, we're living through very uncertain times right now. And with this, it's critical to make sure that your consumers understand what you're offering and know what to expect. And that you, in turn, are focusing on what's most important for your business. So if you leave here with 3 things, I hope that you leave with: number 1, make sure that your information is updated and reflects any service changes that are current. The second is being upfront about setting the right expectations with your customers. Be very transparent, be very open in your messaging, and remember, don't assume that they know anything about your current situation. And last but not least, make sure that your web experience is as uncluttered and focused as possible, and that you're really getting users to do what you really want them to do.
Awesome. Thank you. And Ellen, can you close us out?
Sure. Thank you again, Corey, Ryan, Scott, and everyone who's been a part of this one. I just want to reflect that these are really tough times for small businesses, and the businesses that survive and even thrive are the ones that adapt their business model to this new way of working in which, folks are remote from one another and so much happens online. And so for anyone who's been, thinking about building up a digital presence, or thinking about trying something new, or offering a new class or a new service online, I just want to say, I promise it's not that scary. I work hard, and my teams here at Vistaprint, all of us work really hard to make things as easy as possible, approachable, clear, easy to use for small business owners like yourself. So, I promise you it's not that scary. Now's the time to adapt. We really stand with you and hope that you can survive and thrive. And if there's anything, I or my teams can do, please email Corey. She'll get the message to us, but we're here to help you adapt, survive, and thrive in these new times. You can do it.
Well, thank you so much, Ellen, Scott, Ryan, for being here with us today. And just a reminder, as Ellen just said, you can email us homeofficehours@vistaprint.com, and that's there on your screen as well. So thank you again for the 3 of you for taking the time to be with us today. And thank you to the audience for your curiosity and your questions and your time. This has been Home Office Hours Live with Vistaprint. We'll talk with you soon.